comparing it to now, the targeting was so much different, right? The options in
Yeah.
terms of targeting, you could target based on obviously specific age, but you could target based on specific birth months. You could target very niche. And it was a thing where you could run an ad that was very much within a, say, 25-mile radius of you, and you could have good results. Whereas nowadays, that's really hard to do in most areas. There's still maybe some areas that can work, but you could really, close it in. And I just think the options you had were just extremely different. It was very buggy at those
It
times,
was.
in my
It
opinion.
was.
Like there was, for a long time, if you put Medicare in your ads, in your ad copy, or is Medicare centric at all, it would flag, because at that time, Medicare for All was a big political hot button, and it would flag your ad as a political ad. And so you had to go through some special process to mark your account okay to run political ads. And I did go through those hoops. What I found was
I did not do this. I never did this.
if your ad got, let's say, declined from running, and it still isn't much better, but like one thing I noticed early on was it was very difficult to talk to a person. And when you did, they didn't necessarily know why your ad was flagged. And it was very touchy. It didn't take much
Yeah.
for your ad account to be banned. And just the littlest thing would set off your ads from being declined. Not to say that doesn't still happen, but I feel like the algorithm is a lot smarter these days than it used to be.
100%.
It would probably, in a faulty manner, flag your ads for dumb reasons. Not to
Right.
say that doesn't still happen, it does, but like it was almost impossible to get around back then. And so like there was a kind of a need to create multiple different ad accounts, multiple different business pages, because like even if you created a new ad, you could get to a point where your page wasn't necessarily banned or blacklisted, but it would just like be flagged, and they would keep a closer eye on your ads. Even if you did a completely different ad or you broke their rules, you'd find yourself having issues with it running. So it's very different. It's come a long way. I feel like, again, right, like you could do the simplest thing. You could put out like a very simple video or something like that, very simple ad copy, and you could get extremely good CPLs, extremely. And when I started anyway in 2018, not to say you can't do that today, but I didn't take as much. Nowadays, your ads have to be much more, I feel like, creative. You have to nail every aspect of it, right? And to me, in Facebook ads, there's four things you have to nail: your ad copy, the image of the video, your targeting, and where you're sending the traffic. You have to kind of nail all of those for the ad to work the way you want it to. Back then, you really didn't have to nail much of anything. Like you could kind of just trip into a successful ad, and one of those things could be good and everything else could be mediocre.
Do you think that's because less competition back then? The less
Yeah,
competition, so your ads stood out more?
I think the algorithm was way different and way less competition for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's changed a lot over the years. I just was thinking about that this morning, and I was like, how is it different today? And it's dramatically different. So thinking about this year, I posted not too long ago that we're probably spend 7-figure budget on ad spend this year in totality, right? Some of that is generating Medicare business, some of that is running ads to our other businesses. But when you think about what's worked well for us this year, what jumps out to you?
So, we're talking about like the update in the Facebook algorithm. And if there's one thing that I really trust more than anything, I think it's Zuckerberg figuring out this algorithm. I think there's a lot of AI baked into it now, but
Mhm.
the technology of being able to essentially to be able to take what you're trying to do. And I think we maybe even touched on this in a previous episode. Recently Zuckerberg was being interviewed about their platform, and he was saying that he believes here in the near future they won't even need any sort of ad creatives from you. The future, according to Mark Zuckerberg, is Facebook will be able to just ask you, what are your goals, what are your business, what does your target look like? And it would just run and handle everything else behind the scenes. So like that's the future of how smart this platform's getting. We're not quite there yet. So, you're still in charge of creatives, right? You still have to get the copy down, get the videos, get the images in there. But I think one thing that we've done really well with our team this year on the Meta platform is testing new creatives and just the volume of creatives that we've implemented, because it's one of those things where you never really know what's going to pop off. It could be an image, it could be a faceless video, it could be a short video, it could be a longer video. And I think any good marketer knows like you should A/B test, right? Like you should be testing multiple things, multiple ad copies, multiple videos, multiple images, and then let the numbers speak for themselves. Whatever is working, whatever is winning, whatever is actually getting the most impressions, your cheapest cost per click, your cheapest cost per visit, depending on, again, what your goal is, or your cheapest to get an appointment scheduled, and then just funnel the money in after that. So that's one thing that I think we've done really well, though, is it's just the amount of creative that we've tested, I think has been a big positive for us this year, for sure.
I feel like something that's so different now is the need for multiple different creative to A/B test. You, not to say you couldn't do it back then, but I feel like today, like a lot of our campaigns will have 5 to 10 different ad sets, so we can kind of test it. Now, I feel like that only works if you're spending a big budget. Like if you're spending $20 a day, I don't think there's enough of a budget to spread out over that many creatives to really give it much of a chance to really know what's going to work and what's not. But like if you're spending $100 a day or $150 a day or $200 a day, I definitely think that's a really good strategy that I think is imperative now. Facebook did in the recent years something that was known as dynamic creative. Basically, what that meant is you could put in there in one ad set, multiple different ad copies, multiple different images or videos, and Facebook's algorithm would mix and match and look for the best combination of those. And they're I don't know if they've done it yet, but they're doing away with that this year. They came out and announced that they're kind of replacing it with these multiple ad sets. And so we've really leaned into those multiple ad sets, and I feel like that's a really strong way, for us to maximize a campaign. And then,
Yeah.
by seeing which is our best performing ad set, we can kind of shift some of our budget into that, or, take down some of the ad sets that are just not working. And it allows us to maximize the most effective campaign that we possibly can, around the ad. Another thing too is, and we haven't even really talked about it yet, but the special ads category. The
Yeah.
special ads category is something that kind of towards the end of last
Big
year, early
change.
this year, they started implementing the special ads category. So for those of you that don't know what that means, previously you were not required to select a category necessarily for insurance, Medicare,
Right.
anything like that. And they've done it in other industries in the past, but starting this year, you are for insurance, Medicare, that type of thing. And I heard so many conflicting opinions about this going into the year. I didn't quite know what to believe. So, what we did was we kind of just got involved ourselves and tested multiple different things to try to figure out what's real and what's not real with that.
Yeah.
And layman's terms, right? Why does this matter? Why does it matter if you're putting in a special ads category versus not? Well, marking your ad as a special ads category severely limits your ability to customize the targeting. In the past, you're able to, not doing a special ads category, you still can do this. You could target by age, right? You could do as small of a radius as, I believe, 5-mile radius. Special ads category, it's a minimum of 25-mile radius. But with special ads category, it basically forces you to do a minimum age of 18 and a maximum age of 65 plus. So you're really relying on Facebook's algorithm to take
Yeah.
your ad copy and what you enter in for your ad and show it to the right person. Where in the past, you had a lot more control over who was seeing your ad. This is more Facebook being like, trust us. Trust us, little Billy.
Trust us.
Trust us, little Billy. We have your best interest at heart, little Billy. we will not show your ad to Christian Brindle in Utah. But a
So
lot of times they do.
yeah. So before the special ad category, I would say I rarely saw senior facing Medicare ads.
Right.
I've heard of people who will temporarily change their age on their profile so they can see, like, what are seniors getting marketed to. So I guess that's a thing that you could have done before, and you could probably still do today, right? Go and change your age. All of a sudden Facebook thinks you're 65. You can see all the ads. Well, since the special ads category, I will tell you, I have seen an incredible amount of senior facing Medicare ads from agents. And I don't know if it's because Facebook knows that I'm an agent. Facebook knows that I'm, a part of this, and they don't really know exactly how I fit in from the special ads category standpoint.
Mhm.
I don't know, but um, it's problematic because, again, if you're the one spending that ad money, the last thing you want to do is be spending money on a paid ad to put in front of someone that's not even in the demographic, right? Because
Right.
if I'm seeing that, someone's paying for that ad space, essentially. There's a
Right.
cost to that. So that's definitely problematic. And I would say across the board, from what I've heard from people, this is affecting everyone in that way.